Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Khalil Doheny. I'm the Senior Content and Marketing Manager at Digital Niche Agency. Today, I have the team from 4i. Gentlemen, how are you guys doing today?
Doing fine. Yourself?
Doing great, doing great. Where are you guys tuning in from? I'm coming in from LA.
I'm coming in from beautiful Princeton, New Jersey. So, where it's actually sunny out right now. So, yes.
And I'm from Albuquerque, New Mexico, which is usually sunny, but it's been raining the last 3 or 4 days.
Awesome. And whoever is attending today's webinar, let us know where you guys are tuning in from. Love to know where you guys are tuning in from. How'd you guys find out about this wonderful event that we're having today? Gentlemen, before we get started, you guys want to kind of give a quick background of yourselves, how you guys started, your history, and how you guys got to where you are today?
I used to be a bond trader out in Los Angeles, moved to New Mexico in 2012, got involved with 4RY through a friend of mine who was CEO at the time. And I became the first money investor in the firm when I heard about the technology. It just sounded incredible. It still sounds incredible. 2.5 years ago, I became CEO of the firm. That's how I got involved. Scott got involved from an even earlier point. I first got involved in 2016. Scott is basically involved. Well, I'll let him explain it.
Yeah. So, I'm Scott Kelly. I got started. Well, my father, Arnold Kelly, is really the founder of or co-founder of 4RY, and he's been working in this realm of charge injection atomization for a number of years. So I've been living with this for a number of years. To give you some sense of my background, I've got a mechanical engineering degree from Stevens Institute of Technology and an MBA from Pace. I got started in construction services in New York for a pulp and paper company for a number of years, but then switched to a small high-tech company. So I just wanted to change. I just got tired of a large corporation, so I switched to small high-tech companies, doing a number of things for them: government contract administration, finance, HR administration, so forth. So I'm well versed in the areas of small high-tech companies. So, and also have a pretty good understanding of this technology. Not as much obviously as my father, but I think well enough here to give you some ideas to what this technology is all about today.
Awesome.
Oh, and I should say I don't bring a lot in terms of technological knowledge or whatnot, but I am an MBA and a law degree, and I'm an inactive member of the California Bar. So that's what I bring to the table.
Wonderful. And this webinar ultimately is for you, the audience members, to learn more about 4RY and what they are doing currently on Start Engine. And we're going to go through a little presentation we have here today, and we're going to leave some room at the end for a Q&A. But I do want to say a little quick disclaimer. There are probably going to be questions being asked around the financials, around the projections, anything around the revenue. Unfortunately, due to the SEC guidelines, we kind of have to stay away from those type of questions. But if you do want to learn more, please visit the Start Engine page. Please message both Scott and Robert directly to learn more. I'm going to go ahead and add the raise page link into the chat below. So, after the webinar, you're more than welcome to take a visit and read more. With that being said, gentlemen, I'll pass the mic back to you guys.
The basis of 4RY is charge injected precision spraying. And why this is an entirely new way of spraying is we inject a fluid before it leaves the nozzle, and every droplet that comes out of the fluid is negatively charged. Because all the droplets are negatively charged, they repel each other. So the spray provides its own propulsion. We need a little bit of power to get the fluid to the nozzle, the spray triode atomizer, but after that, the spray itself provides its own propulsion. It generates anywhere from a 20 to a 200 micron droplet, depending on how much charge we put on it. Typical would be about a 50 micron droplet, which is pretty small. when you see the spray, you barely see it. It looks like a very fine mist. Because the droplets are charged, they go to the target, whatever it is that's being sprayed. The target is grounded. Charged droplets need to go to a ground. It wraps the target. It hits all of the irregular surfaces, and it lays down a smooth, even coat. The other wonderful thing about this, especially in this age of environmental consciousness, is there's very little drift, aerosol drift, and there's very little overspray. We're not wasting whatever fluid or powder it is we're trying to coat with. So you get those economies. Scott, you got anything more you want to add about the technology there?
No, I just want to say, just emphasize this is a very different type of spraying than what you hear about electrostatic spraying, and this is how we differentiate ourselves in the essence that our process is a one-step process. In other words, as Bob mentioned, that when the fluid goes through our atomizer, we are not only creating droplets, but we're putting charge on the droplets when they're created. Whereas the other generally electrostatic processes is basically a two-step where you've got the device where you with high power, you have to create the droplets first, and then you put the charge on. So we eliminate the two-step process and just use a one-step. And that's where we get a lot of the efficiency in this technology versus other sprayers that are out there.
I might add, if you go to the Start Engine page, it's in the chat, there's an update there about a demonstration we just gave of a form oil sprayer in Arizona. And it's got pictures, and you get a much better mental idea of exactly how our spraying works and the way it coats, the way the spray bends and goes around whatever the sprayed object is.
Yeah, I guess the other point I want to make out here on this spray is that we understand the process here, and we understand not only efficiency, but also the amount of energy in these droplets. And what we bring also to not only creating droplets, charged droplets, is that we have a high energy droplets. And we'll probably get into this later in the webinar here, but these high energy droplets here can do immense things for you, which regular electrostatic atomizers can't. And like I said, we'll probably delve into this later on here, but I just want to emphasize the amount of energy that are imparted on these droplets from our process.
So the original technology was invented back in the days when Arnold was a rocket scientist. And Scott can go more into that. What our basic business model what we're trying to do is to incorporate our technology into just about every possible spraying application. It's a better way to spray. We are not, you can see from the picture, the sprayer up above, we are not looking to replace all of the actual spraying applications. What we're looking to replace is the spraying component of those applications. And we're more than willing to work with other companies to incorporate our spray technology, to work out licensing deals, joint venture type deals. But we're not looking to reinvent a lot of wheels that are not our particular bailiwick. We're not looking to reinvent all sorts of different kinds of sprayers or whatnot. We're just trying to incorporate our sprayer, which is the best way to spray, into these various applications. And what are those applications? You see the pictures, two main ones, and then one that is so recent that I'm going to have to conventional spraying, anything that gets sprayed. You can see from the picture here the inefficiency of the spraying. Most of it is not going to hit the target. And a lot of these toxic pesticides, when they're spraying, either from a handheld sprayer a ground-based application, a drone application, whichever one you talk about, the spray, a lot of the spray is going to go on the ground. It's going to leach into the groundwater. It pollutes, it wastes spray, it wastes materials. The other thing to bring up is that we will be able to get rid of a lot of things that are in conventional sprays. If you look at a can of pesticide, you'll see it's only about 5% active ingredient, and then it's 95% diluents, propellants, so on and so forth. We'll be able to get rid of a lot of that. And some of that is not at all good, and it's costly. It presents a safety hazard. It presents environmental hazards. We're going to be able to get rid of a lot of that. If you're looking at crop spraying applications, they use tremendous amounts of water just to generate a spray. We can take out most of the water, and especially in a semi-arid or semi-arid type environment, that's hugely important. Switching to the other side, fuel combustion. Stick our spray triode atomizer on a fuel injector in a gasoline or diesel powered engine. By atomizing and generating very tiny droplets, we get much better dispersion in a combustion chamber than conventional fuel combustion. I think Scott was saying earlier, what is it, 30 or 40,000 PSI is necessary to get the kind of dispersion that they have. Isn't that correct, Scott?
Yeah, so we've had simulations done, computer simulations done, and if you look at existing diesel injectors right now, they're running around 30 to 40,000 PSI. And if you look at the simulation, it looks like basically a stalk of asparagus coming out into the combustion chamber. Whereas if you start overlaying our electrostatic charge injection in with the diesel fuel, you'll get in the combustion chamber, it looks like broccoli. And as we all know, broccoli is much healthier than asparagus. And because of our mixing that we're providing with the electrostatic here, we should, based on the simulations and all, get a much better fuel, combustion, less emissions, and you can lower the amount of pressure that you have to spray into the chamber. So you can get it probably by a factor of 10 down to maybe 3,000 to 4,000 PSI versus the 30 or 40, which are currently operating at. So we offer potentially a means here of basically increasing the efficiency of diesel engines. And we've got an outfit now that we'll discuss later here that we're teaming up with here to basically put an injector into a diesel engine just to verify the simulations that we've gotten back on this.
So yeah, you're talking about a 10 to 15% increase in combustibility of the fuel, which is a huge savings in fuel and a huge gain in efficiency. And corresponding to that, you're going to get a 10 to 15% reduction in gaseous and particulate waste. So these are huge benefits that can be applied. We've got a picture of a boat. It looks like marine diesel fuel injectors will probably be the first place that we bring this technology to the fore. And as Scott mentioned, we are working with a company who's underwriting the development costs in a licensing type deal. So we're excited about that. Now I'm going to bring up a third business area that we are very, very excited about, and it just didn't make this this pitch deck because it's so recent. Dr. Kelly has developed a distilled water sprayer. Okay. And this distilled water sprayer, you're putting 54 electron volts of energy on 1 million charges for a 50 micron droplet. What we hypothesized and what has been now experimentally verified is that these highly charged droplets will electrocute bacteria. And we have test verification that we can electrocute E. coli bacteria. Now, this, like I said, this is so recent. We need more testing. We think it'll kill not just bacteria, but molds, spores, fungi, all sorts of microorganisms, which in effect turns distilled water into a disinfectant and a sterilization agent. That's a huge game changer if that's in fact what we're able to verify through the testing. It means if you look at sterilization and disinfection in context, produce and meat, sterilizing bottles, cans, food containers, sterilizing surfaces in hospitals and laboratories, all of those you can replace chemicals, which are corrosive, which are hazardous, and especially in a food or beverage context, can have the possibility of altering taste and texture. All that you can replace with water. I don't have a estimate of the size of these various markets, but when you're talking about bottles and cans, it's obviously a multi-billion-dollar market, and we can eliminate these chemical. And the other way that they sterilize these things is through high heat, steam, water, whatnot. We can eliminate all that. The distilled water is cheap, it's readily available. We can run it at room temperature because it depends on the charge and not the temperature of the water. So that's a huge market for us.
Yeah, I should add also that, you know, right now this is distilled water because but we hope to develop it so we can just run basically tap water and put charge on it and get the same effect here in doing so. So that's ultimately the goal here. And I should add that after this discovery, we filed a provisional patent immediately. So we put the stake in the ground just to cover ourselves. You know, within a year, we'll be putting in a full patent based on this new discovery that just came about here just very recently.
The provisional patent preserves our place at first in line, first to file, and under the patent laws, the first to file gets precedence over anybody who might try to come in on this invention. So let me introduce you to, and I'll ask Scott for this is your spray triode atomizer up on the screen there. That is the one essential component of our system. The other essential component to produce the charge in the fluids that we do, we use an electronic controller. The charge has to be varied. Essentially, it has to be jacked up, and then it reaches a certain point, and then it has to be reduced over and over again on microsecond time frames. And that turned out to be a much more difficult challenge than we thought it was going to be when we first started off. It took us working with a firm in Texas that's a leader in this sort of technology. It took us years to develop that. But one question we get all the time is, you know, can this technology be counterfeited? Can it be duplicated? It looks so simple. The atomizer, yes, is fairly simple, although it's not as simple as it looks when you're trying to put one together. And Scott has put together numerous atomizers, but it's the controller that will be very, very difficult to replicate, almost impossible within a span of, you know, not less than a year or two. So that's your inlet, that's your protection of your proprietary position against, you know, the kind of counterfeiting and so on that goes on, that we all know goes on out there. So we've talked some about the benefits. And this is what creates our market opportunity. We can basically do more with less, which is always going to be attractive. Now, most of the markets that we are going to go after at first are commercial markets. We are not going to be going after the consumer markets because the benefits themselves tend to sell themselves. We have commercial partners right now who have patiently borne with us as we went through the problems with the controllers until we got it fixed. We just shipped 5 ground-based pesticide sprayers to Raven Industries in South Dakota. They are very anxious to try out our technology on their. They do control systems for ground-based sprayers, like you see in the picture. They are very anxious to try out and test and work with us to develop this. These are, this is a large industrial corporation. They were recently bought by an Italian company that's spending a lot of money on this kind of technology. Obviously, the diesel fuel injector, you're going to be taking that to different engine manufacturers and whatnot on the combustion side. We want to be talking to major bottlers, canners, hospital chains, laboratories about the sprayer, the distilled water sprayer. So that's, the benefits. And it was interesting when we did the demonstration at Oldcastle, we did it for 3 officials there, and they were quite skeptical before we began. After 2 minutes of spraying, they were absolutely convinced when they saw the spray. They had originally come to us because their existing sprayer was leaving large pools of form oil at the bottom of the forms. And it was an environmental and safety officer who initially came to us. Also, these guys were standing in the middle of these sprays. They were breathing in all sorts of form oils. It was a safety issue all the way around. When these guys saw this completely coated form with the smooth coat, they were convinced. At the end of the thing, they said, we'll be glad to help you develop your commercial version. Feel free to bring whatever you have down to our facility to test it out. And when you get to the commercial version, we're probably going to want it for this plant. And we're going to want, Oldcastle has somewhere in the neighborhood of 60 or 70 different plants. So the markets we're talking about are large industrial business to business markets. We don't have to concentrate on selling individual items, at least off the bat, to the consumer market. Okay. The team. Arnold has been working on this for over 40 years. He invented charge injected precision spraying. He's the world's leading expert on it because he did invent it. It's been difficult for Arnold because a lot of people have had a lot of trouble understanding exactly what all the implications are. What Arnold is doing is taking insights at the quantum level, and applying it and driving this technology. He's obviously a very bright guy, PhD at Caltech on the Princeton faculty. So now is the time that we are commercializing his technologies. We have the technologies, we are generating prototypes. We are raising funds so that those prototypes can be turned into commercial models and sold into the market, generating revenues and profits. I'm the CEO. As I mentioned, I have a JD and an MBA. Mark Akamoto is our vice president. He's kind of a jack of all trades. He is very technically adept. He's exactly what we need in terms of taking the lab concepts of Dr. Kelly and turning them into, nuts and bolts, practical details. Scott is also very good at that. And so, we have the technical expertise, we have the legal and business expertise, the business plan, the ways we plan on using the money. We have to build Arnold a team of engineers and technicians, probably to start off with 2 to 3 people. They are going to be bringing the 40 years of trade secrets, patentable ideas, everything that Arnold's done, and they're going to be working with Arnold to turn these into commercial realities. They are also going to be working with Arnold to turn these into patentable and intellectual property protected. We want to build a moat around ourselves. We have, like I said, like Scott said, we applied for the patent on the distilled water sprayer. We probably have anywhere from 10 to 15 immediately patentable ideas that are now being preserved as trade secrets. Part of the reason for not patenting them till now is to protect ourselves. Once you've filed with the patent office, things become public. So there's strategic considerations involved, but there's also money considerations as well. It costs money to process all these patents. The other big use of money, other than day-to-day operating expenses, is going to be developing commercial models. We're going to be working with outside experts on design, on distribution, on advertising, on manufacturing, marketing. So we'll be paying for that. But those are the main uses of the money that we're trying to raise now. Scott, I've been doing all the talking.
Okay, well, what do you want me to give you some, I could obviously give them some ideas as to how this technology got started. If there's any interest in that regard, or we can go into some other areas of potential business opportunities with this technology. Kelly, I don't know if you have any suggestions of which way you want me to go. I can, like I said, go in various directions at this point.
Yeah, no, of course. Let's talk a little more about the investment opportunity. Why did you guys decide to go the crowdfunding route?
It's very interesting about our technology. There's this huge infrastructure in this country of angel investors, venture capitalists, and I don't want to disparage the industry, but it's interesting. It's kind of fashion driven almost. I would go to these conferences, I would meet with VCs or whatnot, and I get the feeling that if I could talk about big data, AI, software as a service, those sort of things that everybody's chasing, could have raised a lot of money. Instead, we're talking about spraying, which sounds like a very ordinary sort of thing, a very ordinary application. What's so special about that? Well, our spraying involves basically quantum level physics. It's an entirely different kind of spraying, and it has a whole bunch of different applications. I mean, I've talked about the 3 that we're immediately pursuing. you can go to the Start Engine Raise page and see a lot of the affiliated technologies. We're talking anywhere from 10 to 15 different application areas that we can develop. But it's just not something that the conventional VC and angel investor community is all that interested in. And it's also really interesting. You talk to some really smart people and they're not interested in it. You talk to some people that are smart, but they don't have the gold-plated credentials and whatnot. And I was talking to a woman who I think is probably going to invest with us yesterday. And I said, you either get this technology or you don't. You understand its kind of revolutionary nature, how it can upend all sorts of different businesses. I mean, spraying is in a lot of different areas, and you either understand why this technology is so different or you don't. And the people who get it, I mean, the man who explained it to me and got me writing a check, it took me about 15, 20 minutes to say, yeah, I see what you're doing. Yes, this is amazing. And it's been very gratifying going to Start Engine because we lay out our case there and people can look at it and people are getting it. We're getting investment. They understand this is something different. This is going to be something that's going to have a huge impact on a lot of very big industries. So, you know, we went to Start Engine because we just had a very difficult time selling what we're doing to conventional sources of funding.
Awesome. We do have some questions coming in. Know that you do have a couple more pages on the pitch deck. Let's go through the pitch deck quickly, and then so that way we can go through the rest of these questions.
Okay, we've talked about patents and intellectual property, so I don't think there's any need to go over that.
Mhm.
If you're looking for market size, here's your market size because people are concerned about that. So you can see the numbers there. I want to say, okay, this is kind of a comparison of 4RY and electrostatics. You know, Scott outlined the benefits and how charge injected works versus electrostatics. So don't really need to say too much more about it. Just simply ours is a better way to spray, better coverage, everything else, and a lot lower power requirement. All the droplets are charged. So
But we also, I think another thing I think we can add to this is not only that we offer all these benefits here, but another thing is that we understand we have a model and we understand the spraying process. So we can give whatever customer wants a certain type of droplet size or certain type of spray pattern because we know this, how the spray process works and so forth, and we have models and so forth. We can tailor it to anybody's needs out there, which I don't think most competitors can say that. So we have that. We have a firm grasp understanding, and we have a, like I said, the quantum understanding of what the spray process is all about, which I don't think anybody in the electrostatic community can say with a straight face that they understand based on a quantum effect here and so forth. So I think that's something else that we offer to the customer here.
For some reason, that one just repeated. Our business model, I've discussed that, but just to amplify what I said earlier, we are very much trying to become I think the closest analogy is Qualcomm Corporation. You've got a phone. Everybody's got an iPhone or a Samsung or whatever kind of phone. And all of those phones have a Qualcomm chip in them, the Dragon chip. We want to work the same way on spraying applications. We want everybody to have a 4RY atomizer and the controller. If power source is needed, fine. If pumping is needed, fine, but we can adapt it to existing systems. It's very much able to fit into all sorts of different things. It's just, we want to be that basic technology. We have the best spray. It should be incorporated into everybody's spraying technology. So that's going to be our business model. That allows us to concentrate on the pure technology and let everybody else worry about whatever it is, whatever device or technology they're incorporating our technology, and we'll work out licensing and joint venture sort of arrangements. And we've already worked out some agreements with certain outside partners. So and we intend to do a whole lot more. And I think big focus of our sales effort is going to be obviously on the distilled water sprayer, people who can use that. Milestones, we've worked with the USDA. We've conducted cattle sprayer demonstrations. We've developed a network of veterinary. A lot of people don't know cattle has to be sprayed. Fleas, ticks, all sorts of pests, especially in areas like South Texas, which has 13 million heads. So we've developed a network of university veterinary entomologists who have all basically raised their hand when we said, would you like to test out our sprayer when we get it to the point where it's testable? So we've done a lot of the preliminary sales work. Part of that is just simply because it took us so long to develop the controller that our efforts at selling it kind of outrun it. But we have a lot of people, a lot of companies that want to use this. We have two different drone, one a drone user, one a drone manufacturer who want to incorporate our sprayer onto their drones for agricultural spraying. And like I said, I mentioned other uses. Cook stoves is basically just the technology I've been talking about with fuel injectors. It's called Blue Flame technology. We can do cheap cook stoves for lesser developed country markets. We can do high-end cook stoves for the US camping market, personal care, spraying cosmetics and whatnot. Powder coating is interesting because it's not fluid, but we do have the technology to spray powders in a powder coating application. We can coat a lot of different things, power line coating, we can spray, we could use drones to do power line. So, and there's a lot more. You can learn more about it on the Start Engine page. So that's what we've got. So let's get to the questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. And if you do want to learn more, everyone who is watching today, please visit that Start Engine page. There's a lot of more valuable information on there. The Start Engine page goes into the valuation. It goes into how much is being raised so far. There is a couple questions here that I'm seeing currently about the financials, about the current raise. We can't, like I mentioned in the beginning, we can't discuss that. So unfortunately, we will not be answering those questions. But if there are any questions like that, please message Rob or Scott directly, and they'll be more than happy to answer those questions.
And that is a hard and fast SEC rule, by the way. We can talk about the company or we can talk about the raise, but we can't talk about them at the same time. That's it's kind of a weird arrangement or whatnot, but that's the SEC rules.
Yes. We got a question here from Roger. We already kind of discussed this a little bit, but if we can add a little bit more insight, what markets are you targeting, in what order? What are the sizes of those markets, and what percentages of those markets do you hope to capture?
I think the first market that we're going to have a real product or whatnot will be that form oil market. And that's not just precast concrete. They do the same thing when they're stamping metal. They spray the stamper and the metal with some sort of oil so that it separates after the stamping. So that's an affiliated market. There's also a lot of machine tools that need to spray oil for various reasons, cooling, a lot of different reasons why they need to spray oil, but they spray oil. So we'll be going after that market. I think we put the size of that market at 200 to 400 million. That's a smaller market, but it's kind of giving us an idea of, it's kind of letting us get the ground under our feet, get started on this.
It's a low-hanging fruit market, at least from our standpoint, because it's something that we can do right off the bat here. I mean, we just took for our initial sprayer for that. It's just basically taking some components here and putting together our controller and our atomizer and putting it together, and we've got an instant sprayer which satisfied Oldcastle's needs, and then we'll be working something we can tailor to their existing pressure system, whatever, the spray. So I think that was one of the reasons why we went after that market. It's something that can be done very quickly, and they're anxious to get them in their hands at this point. So that was one of the primary reasons to go after that.
They came to us. I mean,
and they came to us as well. So.
I mean, it's awfully nice when you have a customer knock on your door and say, gee, we'd like you to develop a product for us. So, and they're the biggest in the country. Oldcastle is also a subsidiary of a gargantuan Irish building product conglomerate, CRH. So they are going to give us entry into a lot of different global markets. So that's number one. Number two, the diesel combustion market. The other number two is obviously going to be the agricultural spraying. We have existing relationships with Raven, with two drone ag sprayers, with a bunch of people who want cattle sprayed. These are cattle spraying, estimated $1 billion market. The way they do cattle pest prevention now is archaic. They run them through these gigantic pesticide dip baths, or they put them through these big trucks with these gigantic sprayers. They spray them all over. The water and pesticide wastage is enormous. The environmental problems getting rid of all this stuff is enormous. So, when we describe these technologies to people, we have no problem at all generating interest. Like I said, I've got a network of university veterinary entomologists who want to try out the sprayer. And these guys are going to be our salespeople. They're all connected with extension departments. So they're talking with real life ranchers all the time. So they're our entree into that market. We will be aggressively seeking partners on the distilled water sprayer in the produce and meat safety, in the bottle and can sterilization, and in the hospital and laboratory. I think we will receive once we get our foot in the door, we'll receive quite a welcome from these people. I mean, this is pretty cool. Water as a sterilization and disinfectant agent. I mean, you don't have to say much more to get people interested. But I can't give you hard numbers, percentages or whatnot, but we're fairly confident we're going to be able to get the business done.
So you mentioned distilled water. We have a question here from David saying, distilled water is already being used. What makes yours different?
It's charged. Distilled water in and of itself doesn't kill anything. It's actually a growth medium. Charged distilled water kills or at least kills bacteria. And we think it kills a lot of other microorganisms.
Unless he's talking about putting some additives or something in distilled water, whereas I'm not quite sure what he's referring to on that front. I mean, but yeah, as Bob said, what we're doing differently in essence is we're taking just regular distilled water and putting a charge on it at unlimited flow rates. Now, it's not to say that people can be charging distilled water, but not at the flow rates that possibly that maybe David's referring to or whatnot. I mean, there is ways of charging through the capillary system or the diode system here, but you're talking, the flow rates are minuscule compared to what we're talking about here. We're talking, we can, like I said, unlimited flow rates, but generally we can do like milliliters per second here, just for one nozzle of charging. So yes, you probably could do it with distilled water if you're talking that type of technology, but from a practicality standpoint, the way we're doing it, I think we have a real world solution with this technology on charging distilled water, and just the amount of charge that we are putting on these droplets here. As I mentioned, there's a, not to get too technical, but we're putting basically on 150 micron droplet, and we've got a million electrons at 54 eV, which to most people is not going to mean anything. But if you think about your digestive system, metabolism, you're talking 2 to 3 EVs, electron volts of energy. Here we're putting 54. So you've got these immense charges on these droplets here. And as Bob said, when they interact, say, with bacteria and so forth, you're electrocuting, you're disrupting their cells. And that's what's given us this 4 log benefit here initially when it's in contact with, say, E. coli. And we feel we can scale it up here. And we've done testing with I don't think Bob mentioned this, with the USDA. They tested this with tick larvae, and it was some of a flawed test, but we were able to show that just by charging with distilled water charged on these tick larvae, we were able to kill 43% of the larvae in an imperfect test. So we think we have, obviously we got to do some additional improvements, but I think the technology is there that we can really make a game changer with this in those arenas.
Awesome. Hopefully that answers your question, David.
If David has any other questions, I'll go back. Obviously Arnold has got the know-how. He's been, he's always in contact with all the abstracts and everything in the world out there on electrostatic and charging and all. And he could certainly, we can take this offline and go further and have the discussion with him on this. But I'd be just curious, when he says that distilled water that is already out there in that front, I think we like to have that discussion with him further on this.
Awesome. I was going to ask, where is the best way to reach out if someone did have a question?
Okay, you can go to the comments section on the Start Engine. And actually, that's probably the preferred way, because under the SEC regulations, they want the same information available to all investors. So you would go to the comment section. We monitor the comments. We get notifications when comments have been filed, and just ask your question and we can answer it. And that way everybody gets access to the same information at the same time, which is what the SEC wants.
And I did get a question here asking, who is this guy, Khalil? What is his role? And to quickly answer that, I am the Senior Content Marketing Manager at Digital Niche Agency. I'm assisting 4RY with their marketing campaign for this crowdfunding raise. So that is my role, and I am moderating their webinar today. Awesome. And then I did get a couple questions here on nanotech. Does your technology have any nanotech in it?
We say nanotech. Well, yes, we didn't get into this, but we have demonstrated that we can generate nanofibers. So we have done in the lab. We've taken. I was anticipating somebody asking that question. Ask Arnold, the CHOG member, but we have generated nanofibers, and we do have SCM images of us, the results of polystyrene we've generated through our spray charge injection process of generating nanofibers. And we think we can probably do it also with the molten polyethylene. We did some work on that. But we did see that we might be able to further that process where we might be able to generate nanofibers from molten polyethylene. But we do, so to answer your question, yes, we can do nanofibers.
Correct me if I'm wrong too, but the nanofibers that we do are both lighter and stronger than.
You also have a charge in one sense, so you can also embed charge on that. So you can also have a built-in electrostatic filter. So based on this process, but yes, we have done nanofiber work. And also, I don't know if there's a question out there, but we also, because of the immense charge on these droplets, we can do separations. So just to not to get take too much more time and everything, but we've demonstrated we can basically clean up old transformer oil, and we did this test some years ago for a local utility where then it took some of their old past transformer oil and ran it through. We have two types of processes of filtering through our charge injection process, brought it back to the utility for testing. And the way they test for on their transformer oil is what's called the dielectric strength. And this is the amount of strength that the oil can take in these transformers to offset, the high voltage. So we were able to basically filter out all the oil waxes and particulates on the oil and bring it back to basically new oil with this process. So from an environmental standpoint, now you don't have to worry about throwing out used transformer oil. You can run it through our system here and basically just recycle it and reuse it again. So from a green technology standpoint, that's one area that we could certainly go into. But like I said, there's so many different markets and so forth that we can pursue. But obviously, that's another area of this technology that is open to us.
Yeah, this is just like one thing that we can do. We highlighted 3 or 4 things that we can do. Because we're making discoveries at a fundamental quantum type level, it throws off all sorts of implications, all sorts of different applications, like what Scott was talking about, which is why we are seeking the funding. We have this treasure trove here. We need to develop it and we need to bring it to market. And from a portfolio standpoint, if you just want to talk about finance, and this is exactly the way I looked at it being an ex-bond trader, when they came to me for investment, okay, I thought, if 1 or 2 of these ideas hits and they get commercialized or whatnot, it's at least a break-even proposition. 3 or 4 hit, you've probably got a home run. 7 or 8 or 10 of them hit, you've got a grand slam. And that's the way one way to look at it is this is a portfolio of technologies for various reasons, ease of development and whatnot. We're concentrating on what we've outlined today, but there's a lot more in the hopper.
Awesome. Let's see what else we got here. Any significance to the name 4RY? Do you think the name help conveys what 4RY is or does?
It's been interesting. It's been a great name because everybody asks, why are you 4RY? Okay, the RY in 4RY stands for a Rydberg unit, which is the unit of energy, 13.6 electron volts that's required to ionize a hydrogen atom. Okay, we have 4 Rydberg units of charge on each of the or 4RY units of charge on each charge that we put on a droplet. So that's where 4RY came from, 4 Rydberg units.
Awesome. And got a question here is, where is the COO?
Oh, that's me. I mean, on the slides there said operations manager, but I'm the COO. So this never got corrected properly.
And is Robert Gore acting as the patent attorney? Does 4RY have a separate patent attorney?
We have a separate patent attorney. It's way beyond my pay grade to do patents. That's a very specialized area of the law. And I've always been, I have never practiced law, although I am a lawyer. So no, her name is Rita Chipperson. I think she's Scott can provide amplification on this. I think she's handled a lot of Arnold's patents. He's got at least 20 patents that he's put through. She is very good.
She's the current patent attorney firm that we've been using. And she's the one that just filed also the still water spraying provisional for us. So that's who we've been using.
And then we have a question here from Roger. Would using AI help in developing 4RY products?
I guess the answer is one way. Maybe AI might be helpful, but I don't know, depending on how you look at it. I mean, obviously we have a controller that we have developed here, which is really a key part of this technology now for commercialization. And there may be some aspects of that could be incorporated down the road. I haven't really given it much thought, but there is a potential of utilizing it in that sense. I'm not quite sure how, but that's something I think we can certainly address or take a look at.
I think it's probably going to come into play when we start manufacturing things. Automation and AI will, since AI is kind of the cutting edge of automation and manufacturing and so on, I'm sure it'll come into play.
Oh, yeah, I would think it's going to come through obviously on the controller side of things, and for monitoring. So you can basically just throw any fluid through the system here, and it automatically would adjust itself.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and then maybe it's something obviously we may want to look at on the road, but I would not rule it out. Let's put it that way.
We are coming here towards the end. There are a couple more questions. So if your questions didn't get answered, please reach out directly or leave them in that comment section on Start Engine. We'll be more than happy to get those questions answered. But other than investing, what is the best thing we can do to assist with your campaign?
Tell other people about it. Say we saw this webinar. It's interesting technology. It's different. It's not going to be subject to the market up and downs of stock markets going up. I mean, they're trying to make it a real business sooner rather than later, and just tell people, this is something that's worth looking at.
How about you, Scott? Anything you wanted to add there?
I just say make sure you just tell your friends to look at spraying things differently. I think it gives you a different perspective now. Appreciate, like your hairspray or your pump sprayer and everything. That just you can tell your friends that you invest in 4RY. You're investing in technology that can revolutionize down the road here. Anything that's sprayed. So it gives you a different perspective on things.
Yeah, it tells you we're different, and it tells you we've got a penetration in. I mean, just saying spraying, it's huge. I mean, there's a zillion different things we can do with this.
Awesome. And for those who weren't able to attend today's webinar, don't worry, this webinar has been recording, and we will be posting it on the Start Engine page as a webinar recap. So be on the lookout for that recording. It will be up there within the week. So thank you, gentlemen. Thank you everyone who attended today's webinar. This was fantastic. I learned more about 4RY. I learned how to pronounce it correctly.
Well, it's a start.
Exactly.
Yeah, thank you very much for attending the webinar, Khalil. Thank you for acting as our moderator, and look forward to seeing it up on the Start Engine page.
Awesome. And like I said, if you guys had a question that didn't get answered today, please leave it on the Start Engine page. I wrote down these questions for for both Robert and Scott to take a look at, so they can hopefully create some posts around it in the future down the line. So thank you everyone for attending today's webinar, and I hope everyone has a great day.
Oh, and keep your eye on the updates on the Start Engine page,
Yes.
because we will be issuing updates. We have been issuing updates and will continue to do so.
Yes, exactly. Those will be posted every week. So yeah, be on the lookout for those.
All right.
All right, well, thanks, Bill, for hosting this.
Yep.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.